Hello everyone, and welcome to my level presentation. In this video, I will be showcasing my level design document along with gameplay in my final blockmesh level and see how they kind of match up, what ideas made it into the level, what ideas didn't make it, and things along that nature. So we'll go ahead and start. Here was the idea for my level. I knew I wanted like a castle in the mountains where the player wakes up, not really sure of how they got there. I knew I wanted them to be able to talk with ghosts and try to find a way out, but I really wanted to add like animations in the beginning where the player's waking up, and I kind of ran out of time, and that wasn't something that was able to make it in. But I do feel like I captured the aesthetic of Castle in the Mountains, especially with the landscape and obviously the levels of Castle. But as we go in, we have our level story and description here. Player character wakes up in a castle dungeon, unaware of how they got there, and this is reflected in the player character's quest log right from the start when they press tab to open their journal. It pretty much reflects these exact things. I wanted the player to use creative thinking to solve puzzles. I wanted them to be encouraged to explore and see what the level had to offer. I kind of wanted to capture a mystical feel, like what's going on here. Same thing with mysterious. There was going to be secrets and pieces of a story to figure out. I wanted a lot of my puzzles to involve problem solving, so the player would be given the pieces, but it really up to them on how they needed to solve it. I didn't want to tell them exactly what to do. And I wanted it to be unknown. I wanted the player to kind of, not know where they were, but kind of piece it together as they explored. Um, yeah, an old movie, Bram Stoker's Dracula. I really liked the aesthetic of it. It's very dark, very gritty, and that is what I wanted for my level. And I kind of achieved that in the skybox with, it's really dark. The light from the skylight is a dark orange, and the sun's in a sunset kind of position. Furthermore, for my game references, I knew I wanted to use telekinesis. At first, my initial idea was to use it to have activate like sliding locks and open up doors, but when I started implementing it, I didn't really know how to put that into the level in a way that would make sense. And so ultimately, I decided on a telekinesis mechanic similar to controls, where the player can pick up objects and throw them. For my mood boards here, this is heavy inspiration for my player start area. This prison cell, these prison cell images. This is what really got me captured on what I wanted to do in the level. I knew I wanted a library. I didn't want it to be too big and too grand. I just wanted a small, quaint library with the small objective in it, so give it a reason to be in the level. Same thing with the throne room. I knew I wanted a throne room, and I knew I wanted a puzzle with statues in it. I just didn't know how I wanted to set it up, and ultimately I ended up going with the second image for my mood board on what heavily influenced it. Again, I just wanted a castle kind of separated from the world, very isolated. I wanted it to be very unknown. For the feeling and the lighting, again, like I said, I wanted a very dark level, but I didn't want it to be so dark that the sun was completely out of it. I kind of wanted the sun to be, or the skylight to be, very muted and very taking a back seat. For my bubble diagram, I feel like I captured my bubble diagram very, very well. Um, player starts off in the prison cells. That's where they're introduced to things like that. I ultimately scrapped skeleton conversations, and in the guard room, I wanted that to be the interact introduction, but I ended up scrapping that as well in favor for talking to one of the NPCs, which would symbolize a ghost. The torture chamber, we do have the ghost conversation with the NPC. He gives you the quest, which teaches the player character how to use the telekinesis. And the Death by Iron Maiden, I ultimately ended up getting rid of it because it was just going to take too much time, and I didn't have that with me. And as we can see, my top-down map, I actually ended up expanding on this to create the three pathways. So originally it was just the torture room, and this is where the player was going to gain access to the telekinesis. I still use the torture room as a way to introduce the telekinesis, like I said, but I ended up expanding it into a storage room next to it. And again, the NPC is still there, one of the books is still there, and one of the books is still in the prison cell. So moving up, we have the library, and again, captured this I think fairly well with the ghost at the desk. They give the player the quest. Hey, I need you to collect some books throughout the castle, and that's ultimately what decides that the player will go on this quest. For the Grand Hall, I kind of wanted to be messy, and that's why, like in my final level, I have tables and benches kind of thrown everywhere. I knew I wanted a broken bridge that didn't lead anywhere, and I wanted originally to have a gate that the player would have to open in some way, again using the telekinesis to maybe slide locks out of the way, like big barricades, but that just didn't happen. I did get the optional objective if they fell to their death. And then moving up to the throne room, here we had our statue puzzle, and I knew that's what I wanted to do in my throne room. And another book area here, and then finally coming up to the roof, I knew that I wanted the exit to be at the top. I didn't want it to be, oh, reach the front gates, get out of the front gates. So I wanted it to be, ascend to the top, find the exit, escape. Moving on to my paths, this again was edited to make room for the optional paths, or the 3 branching paths. So when the player starts in the prison cell, they're able to go through the torture room, through the storage room, up that staircase, or they can go through the hole in the wall, which requires a little bit of jumping puzzles. It's a little jumping section across some boards and into the library, and then the north turret connects all floors of the castle together. So in the library again, there was multiple paths that weren't initially drawn in. Same thing for the Grand Hall. Most of these rooms had a few more doors in it, and I wanted every floor to have something in it, which is why, so like the books and the falling to the death, a small optional objective, but it's fun. For the player mechanics, again telekinesis. This is what I want. I like again wanted sliding locks, but ultimately decided that throwing things was going to be a lot funner. Item collection, which did make it in for the books. Pushable statues, which did make it in. I wanted them to be able to pull the player to be able to pull the statues, but I felt like pushing made a lot more sense. Death by Iron Maiden ended up getting scrapped. Death by Falling was still in. I originally wanted to change the camera so it kind of top down as they fall down. Conversation with ghosts happened. That's how the player character gains access to certain quests. The castle turret bonfire lighting was supposed to activate every time a player completed a quest, but I decided to scrap it. I just feel like it wasn't fitting in that well. And that covers my level design document along with my level and where my ideas came from, how I kind of formulated things, why I pieced together things, why I included certain things, actions and elements. This level did get expanded from original idea. Again, when I built it, the 3 branching paths kind of happened midway through the level. As the player ascended to the north turret, they got into a library, they found access to another turret, and that was kind of the branching paths that I wanted to have. But I ultimately made it so that from the beginning, the player character can reach these 3 different paths, and as they explore, there are multiple paths for the player to unlock. They don't have to go through the north turret to navigate the castle. They can go through the north turret. They can go through the stairwell after the storage room. They can traverse the north turret, then the south turret, then go to the east turret. There was multiple paths for the player to follow in my level. I was very happy with how the telekinesis came out and the introduction action block to it. I like the pushable statues in the throne room. I felt that came across really well, and I like how it all worked together. And the item collection was really fun to implement. It took a lot of blueprinting and technical design work, but it was really fun to put that together because it was originally an inventory system and pair it with the quest system. So that covers my level and my design document. I appreciate you for watching. Thank you so very, very much. As always, any and all feedback is always appreciated. Thank you so much for your time.